The fact that Danielle Colby finally breaks the silence about Frank Fritz is huge for American Pickers fans because for years people have been speculating about Frank's departure and Danielle's thoughts. She is now prepared to discuss what happened between Frank Fritz and Mike Wolf. This isn't just idle talk, it's her side of the story, full of genuine feelings and facts. Stay tuned because Danielle Colby finally breaks the silence and confirms the rumors. You'll hear what's been going on behind the scenes with TV's favorite picking team. Let's start with her roadside beginnings. Before American Pickers began, Danielle Colby wasn't a TV star. She was just a friend, assisting Mike Wolf and Frank Fritz. Danielle stayed back in Air, Iowa, running Antique Archaeology, the shop where they sold their finds, answering phones, tracking down leads, and making sure everything kept moving. The fans loved her right away because of her tattoos, fun energy, and way of keeping things real. But she wasn't just there for the show's success. She was the one keeping everything together. Growing up in Iowa, Mike and Frank had been friends for years, and he was the guy with big dreams who was always talking about saving history. Frank was quieter and more focused on details, like how an old toy worked. They would occasionally argue, with Mike wanting a rusty sign and Frank eyeing a motorcycle part, but it was entertaining to watch. The early days were simple. They would drive around in their white van, picking through people's belongings in search of treasures. Danielle would laugh when they called her from the road, making jokes about who won the day. She kept the shop ready for whatever they brought back, and she would hear stories about their trips. People began coming to the shop to ask about Mike and Frank, which was exciting, but Danielle could tell that things wouldn't stay easy forever, because the show was getting bigger and bigger, and things brought bigger problems. She got to know Mike and Frank fairly well, and Mike was always pushing forward with ideas. Danielle Colby was right there when it happened. It started slowly. Mike had been pitching the idea for years, filming things with a shaky camera, dragging Frank along, climbing into old barns, getting dirty. Danielle helped from the shop, digging up leads for them. Networks kept saying no, thinking nobody watched two guys picking. Danielle liked things slower, digging into the small stuff. She talked to Mike about his plans and checked on Frank when he sounded tired. They trusted her and she trusted them. It felt like a little family, but even back then, she noticed little signs of trouble. Garbage, but Mike wouldn't quit. In 2010, the History Channel took a gamble and Bang 3 cost 1 million people watched the first episode, and Danielle couldn't believe it. The store transformed into a zoo overnight, and fans flocked to see where the magic happened. Danielle was suddenly a big deal. People recognized her from TV and asked for pictures, so she would smile, show them around, and point out cool things like a rusty gas bump. Mike thought it was fun, but crazy, and she had to hire extra staff just to keep up with the constant phone calls from people asking for pictures. Fans wanted to see Frank and Mike, and although they were living the dream, it was too much to handle. We found a huge neon sign and couldn't stop talking about it. Frank got an old fire extinguisher and boasted like he had won a prize. Danielle would laugh, write it down, and get the shop ready for whatever they dragged in. But the show wasn't easy anymore. They were filming 250 days a year, and she could hear it in their voices. They were beaten, but they were still going. But fame hit them all differently. Mike leaned into it and opened a shop in Nashville, and it took off. Danielle thought it was awesome. He was making his mark. Frank didn't like the spotlight, so he stayed in Illinois, keeping his picking low-key. She would tease him, "You're the quiet star, huh?" He'd grunt and change the subject. They counterbalanced each other with Mike loud, Frank chill. It worked on TV, and she had her fans. They loved her tattoos, funky clothes, and burlesque flair. When she posted pictures online, fans would comment, "You're the coolest," making the long days worthwhile. However, she noticed that the show was changing. It wasn't just them picking anymore. There were crew plans and big money, and it felt more like a job than an adventure. The buzz kept growing, and by 2015, episodes cost $250,000, 0 cents more than in the early days. We just wanted to keep it real. She would hear them argue occasionally about nothing major, just minor things. Mike would say, "We need a big score." Frank would say, "I'm not digging for your TV." Danielle stayed out of it, concentrating on the shop because she liked being the calm one, the one they could rely on. It was a crazy ride, and Danielle was proud of the show, which drew millions of viewers each week. She would occasionally sit back and marvel at how far they'd come from a small Iowa shop to TV screens all over the world. She knew that fame is difficult. It gives you a lot, but it also takes things. She didn't know what was coming yet, but she could sense something coming. By 2017, Danielle Colby could tell that something was wrong. Although she wasn't out picking, she heard everything from Mike and Frank. The show was huge now, with big crews, tight schedules, and tons of money on the line. Mike was all in to make it even bigger, and he would call her from Nashville to talk about new shop ideas and new finds. Danielle loved his energy, but she could hear the stress he was under, because he wanted every episode to wow people, which meant more work for everyone. Frank was different. He called less and sounded exhausted. When he did, Danielle knew he had been dealing with Crohn's disease, as his stomach hurt a lot and was getting worse. He didn't talk about it much, but she would ask, "Are you okay out there?" He'd say, "Yeah, just tired," and move on. She didn't push. He was private like that, but the crew told her stuff. Frank is missing, days and looking rough on set. Danielle started worrying. He loved picking, but his body wasn't keeping up. The shop kept her busy. Fans still came asking about Mike and Frank. "Where's Frank lately?" They'd say Danielle would smile, say he was out picking, and leave it at that. She didn't want to start rumors, but she saw the signs. Frank's calls got shorter. Mike's got busier. The show was pulling them apart. One time Frank snapped. He called her from a shoot, mad about something. Mike said, "He's turning this into a circus." He grumbled. Danielle listened and didn't take sides, saying, "He's just excited." She didn't tell Mike that it wasn't her fight, but it stuck with her. They used to laugh about things like that without arguing, and she wondered if the show was worth it, if it messed them up and caused a big rift. Nevertheless, she kept the shop running as if nothing was wrong, even though the episodes looked great, with Mike and Frank joking and finding treasures. Danielle knew it was edited to hide the difficult parts, but she didn't say anything because she liked her job running the shop and avoiding the drama. Mike would occasionally visit, but she was busy with plans and Frank didn't come by much. She missed the good old days. When they all hung out and shared stories in 2019, it became obvious that something big was about to happen. Frank's health was deteriorating. He missed more shots, and the crew was rushing. Despite this, Danielle could hear him sigh on the phone and wished Frank was here. The show was now a machine and wasn't stopping for anyone, and she felt like it was getting out of control. She hoped that Mike and Frank could work things out before it blew up. In March 2020, the wheels fell off and Frank Fritz's last American Pickers episode aired. He called her one night and said, "Frank's done," and she asked why, but Mike had little to say. Danielle didn't push, but she could tell he was sad. She'd seen it coming, but it still hurt. Frank had been involved in this from the beginning. His silly laugh and love of strange finds made the van roll without him, and it didn't feel right. Later, he told the Sun that he hadn't spoken to Mike in 2 years. "My back's messed up," he said, and Mike didn't even call her. She'd seen Mike move shoots around when Frank was ill, but she understood why Frank felt that way. Perhaps he needed more than scheduled adjustments. She didn't call him to make sure that wasn't her thing, figuring he'd reach out if he wanted. Fans exploded. They inquired. On the internet, did Mike leave him? Danielle saw the posts but stayed quiet. She kept the shop running, posting pics of old stuff, anything to dodge the questions. She didn't want to pick a side. Mike was her buddy, always had been, but Frank was too, and she hated that he was gone. She'd text Mike, "How's it going?" He'd say, "We're doing okay." She didn't inquire about Frank as it felt too personal, but the truth was messy. Frank's Crohn's disease had resulted in 17 brutal hospital stays over the course of 2 years, as well as treatment for alcoholism in 2020. Danielle learned about it from the crew, and she didn't believe he was a mess-up. He hurts people. She recalled him making a joke about a find once, and she was thrilled to see that guy fading. Sucked. Mike continued filming and bringing in new people. Danielle watched the episodes, which were good but not the same. She missed Frank's vibe, even though he had been grumpy lately. The shop was still packed with fans, and 2020 threw everyone off with the pandemic. Danielle kept it open when she could, wearing a mask and chatting through the glass. People kept asking about Frank, and she would respond vaguely, "He's taking a break," not wanting to lie, but without giving away the whole story. Mike posted on the internet that he would miss Frank and referred to him as a brother. Danielle read it and nodded. Mike meant it. Frank's words stuck with her, even though he told the Sun that he felt like second place, and he was just there. The big dreamer Frank was just a regular guy who picked out little things that fans liked. She didn't think Mike pushed him out, but she saw how Frank could feel left behind. The show was Mike's baby, and Frank wasn't keeping up, so she wished they had talked it out, but they didn't. Danielle kept her head down and the van stopped rolling for Frank, and she had to roll with it. She focused on the shop, her dancing, and her life, and fans kept speculating about money, arguments, jealousy, and other things. She knew Mike was hurting, and Frank was too. The breaking point came, and she couldn't fix it. She couldn't do anything but wait and see what happened next. First words out, Danielle Colby finally broke her silence in July 2021, and it was a game changer. Avoiding fans and rumors since Frank's departure, she grabbed her phone, took a selfie with Mike, and shared it on Instagram. She wrote, "Boom, I'm on the road again with my best friend and big brother, whom I fully and firmly support." But she wasn't done. She had more to say about Frank Fritz. She continued typing, and it became real. "I'm incredibly sad for his struggles. I've personally watched everything over the last decade." Danielle Colby confirmed the rumors, but not with a big fight story. She had witnessed Frank deal with things related to his health, perhaps more, and it wasn't easy. Fans went crazy reading every word. What struggles? They asked. She didn't spell it out. She wasn't there to gossip, just to say what she knew. Then she dropped a heavy line. "Frank caused so much pain for himself that it has been hard to watch." She wrote, "I truly hope Frank receives all the help he needs to become well after years of being unwell." That hit people. Danielle wasn't mad. She was worried. She'd watched Frank fade, and it hurt her. She didn't blame him, she just hoped he'd get better. It was her way of saying, "Yeah, the rumors about trouble are true, but it's not what you believe. The only reason I'm speaking to this right now is because everyone is speculating on my words," she stated, explaining why she wrote, "My words are being taken." She added, "I hope everyone gets well." She wanted it straight from her. No rumors, no lies. She was done letting others speak for her fans, who had a lot to say. Some loved it because Danielle was so genuine, while others said, "Tell us more," out of context, in tabloid rags. "Because they can't interview me." She chose Mike because he had always supported her, but she still cared about Frank. Her post wasn't a big reveal, it was a peek. And people could guess the rest, but she had said what she wanted, and life continued to be exciting after that. She didn't care that she wasn't disclosing every secret she'd ever had with Mike and Frank. She would smile and say, "Check my post," even though she was still asking questions, and move on. Mike continued picking, and she would support him online. Frank remained silent, and she didn't reach out. She had done her part, cleared the air, set her stance, and squashed the rumors about a feud. She left it there, letting fans figure it out. Quiet fallout. After Danielle's 2021 post, things became quiet, but not easy. Frank Fritz was off American Pickers, and Danielle Colby was stuck watching the fallout. She didn't say much more online, just shot pics and dance stuff, keeping it light. But she knew, behind the scenes, that Frank was in poor health. His Crohn's had been difficult for a long time. Fast Danielle didn't call him because she thought he needed time to himself. She just hoped he would get through. He would occasionally stop by the shop, looking tired but happy, saying, "We're still picking now," and she would nod that he was hanging in there. Fans asked her about Frank less now that her post had silenced some of the conversation, but she would hear rumors from the crew that he wasn't doing well, that he was having more hospital trips, that he was having more problems, and that Danielle felt bad. Then, in 2022, he had a big and frightening stroke, and Danielle learned about it from a friend on the crew. She didn't ask specifics, but she heard Mike was there a lot, sitting by. He would bring small items, old photos, and items they discovered together to Frank's bed, which Danielle thought was cool because it showed that Mike still cared, even after the silence. She didn't visit him, but she kept an eye on it. Frank didn't recover quickly. He had a severe stroke and required a lot of help afterward. In October 2024, everything came to an end when she heard from Mike, who sounded devastated and said, "He's gone." So she just listened. Mike informed her that he had been there until the very last day, bringing items from their picking days. Danielle felt a knot in her throat because she had known Frank for a lifetime, and losing him was like losing a piece of the show. She didn't post about it. It only took a day. Fans may have heard Danielle's post and seen Frank go. Tech2Jet, fans may have heard Danielle's post and seen Frank go. Andre. But Mike remained silent and only posted a brief note online about missing his brother. She respected that. She didn't want to stir things up, but the rumors began again, and she shook her head, saying that fame killed their friendship. The full story is revealed when Danielle Colby finally breaks her silence about Frank Fritz and confirms the rumors months after Frank's death. She sits down for a straightforward interview, devoid of drama, and she says, "I watched it happen over the years. Crohn's pain, everything. Mike didn't push him out. Frank had to stop. It's straight. No nonsense, Danielle." She confirms the rumors about a guy who couldn't continue, not about a fight. "It's time to tell everything," she says, nodding to the thumbnail. "This is for them." She makes it clear that Frank loved picking, but his health wouldn't allow it. She claims that by 2018, he had been in and out of hospitals 17 times in 2 years. Mike tried to help, moving shoots, waiting, but Frank was done. She had seen him flinching on calls, stressing over schedules, and he quit because he couldn't do it. It's not crazy news, but it's true, and fans lean in. Then she flips it to Mike, who stuck by him. She says that after the stroke, he was there, paid bills, brought old finds to the hospital, and he was there when Frank, "I've known them since the beginning." And for a brief moment, Danielle gets personal. She says that Frank was the quiet one who found little treasures, and that Mike was the dreamer who saved big stuff. They were awesome together, and that fame made it hard, long days, and a lot of pressure. But it wasn't hate that split them. Instead, it was just Frank's body that broke. Fans get the full picture now, and it's heavy. People wanted a blowout story, yelling, backstabbing. But Danielle doesn't give that. It's not that exciting. Health, not Mike. Fought to keep the show, not Frank. She had hinted at this in 2021, but now that Frank is gone, she explains that it wasn't time. The interview was brief, but it landed, and she says that American Pickers was their thing, two friends chasing junk, and that it's still going because of Mike and Frank's part. Danielle doesn't cry or give a long speech. Instead, she confirms the rumors with facts, not fluff. Fans hear it and feel it, and they don't have to guess anymore. She ends simply saying, "No big fight, just real life. I'm proud of them both." The full story is out, and it's her responsibility to tell it. Danielle Colby finally gave us the truth about American Pickers, Frank's health, Mike's loyalty, and everything is clear now, so there are no fights, just difficult times and heartbreak at the end. What do you think of Danielle's story? Does it match your thoughts? Please leave a comment below, and we'll be watching for more like this.